So, well, what I want to do is start out by answering some of the comments that were made regarding extinction. And then I'm going to move on to Ayn Rand, if I could make it there, because there were quite a few comments to address. And there are issues that people have with the extinction theories, which, as I see it, are not very clear to them. And I'm not sure if it's that they just disagree or they don't understand, and that's what I need to clarify here today. Okay, let's go with the first comment. Fella says, Bill claims food in the lab is not going to happen in the future. Okay, wrong. There will be lots of startup companies milking this for all it's worth. And he gives a couple references, okay? And they look like this. The first one was a site that had this information in it. It says, Clean Meat Startup, 10 lab-grown meat producers to watch. And the article said the hottest areas of startup innovation. It's happening right now as we speak. And they do acknowledge that vegan and vegetarian lifestyles are more popular than ever. In fact, they're on the rise, okay, and they're on the rise in obviously at the expense of meat, okay. But they continue to say that lab-grown beef burger that cost €250,000 to produce. That's quite an expensive hamburger, if you ask me. And it says Google co-founder Sergey Brin footed the bill, okay. So obviously some people are working on making some artificial, let me get this thing out, some artificial meat, okay. I don't know, I don't think I'm going to go for artificial meat, but the question is, we have also the vegetarians growing in numbers, vegans and vegetarians, and so the question is whether that's an industry that has a future, first, and second, if they're going to put billions of people to work. And it gives another reference. I just want to put that up just in case. Lab-grown meat startup raises $14 million to build production plants. So they're going to be building these plants. They're going to be doing a little bit of genetic, I like to call it God's work. You know, we're going to be gods here. We're going to be creating some artificial meat, okay? And forget about that steak that had a little bone in it. No, I don't think they're going to worry about the bone. I think it's going to be pure meat, okay? It says Future Meat Technologies, a startup that makes lab-grown meat, raised $14 million in its Series A funding round. Okay, so some people are investing in this, rich people or rich companies. Cultured meat is made by using stem cells from the fat or muscle of an animal. And that is interesting because all mammals that we are raising, livestock, etc., they're losing their genetic diversity. And in great measure because of us, because we're inseminating them artificially. And from that stock, they're going to be making these burgers, okay? So we're going to have some very cloney type hamburgers. They're all going to look the same. By 2021, Future Meat is planning on selling hybrid products that use lab-grown fat and plant protein. Okay, so he's saying that I didn't know what I was talking about because apparently they are growing meat already artificially. So what's the context? What's the issue? Well, the first issue I want to make sure that you understand is that, you know, the fact that a guy like the, the Google founder backed it up, it doesn't mean that, oh, it's scientific and we got to all rush in there because we got a very important guy that's got a lot of money that invested in it. Yeah, here's another loony that invests in stuff. His name is Elon Musk. Okay, Elon Musk is a guy who leads space exploration technologies known as SpaceX, where he oversees the development and manufacturing of advanced rockets and spacecraft for missions to and beyond the Earth orbit. Founded in 2002, SpaceX mission is to enable humans to become a space-faring civilization and a multi-planet species by building a self-sustaining city on Mars. Okay. Now, I suspect Elon Musk subscribes to that. You know, that's not taken from any of his sites, but this is the word that's out there. Okay, other sites mention this. Mars, city on Mars. Hopefully, they don't plan to terraform first. If there's going to be a city, it's going to have to be transported from here. In other words, all the stuff that we're going to need there, it's going to be transported from over here. And one thing is to put a little garage and put 5 people in there, which I don't think is going to happen either. But aside from that, I mean, a city? What are we talking about here? Are we saying that we're going to be transporting food and water to these people? You know, to feed them for every day that they stay in Mars? Are we going to have these oxygen tanks, the enormous oxygen tanks there, you know, helping them breathe? They go out with their spacesuit when they walk around, and then they come back into the compound, whatever we've got there. We're going to be building all this? Billions of dollars for whom? For a few rich people? You know, there are lots of problems here on Earth. And these people are talking about building a little city. A city, huh? We're not talking about a little, you know, hardware store or you know, some little hut out there. We're talking about a city. And they're saying a city's going to be up there. And who's going to go there? And are they going to live there? And are we going to feed them from the earth? You know, these people are dreaming. Not only does it cost trillions to do this whole thing that they've got in their mind, there's no way it's going to ever happen. There's absolutely no way. These people watch too many Hollywood movies. Okay. One thing is, if you could terraform the surface of Mars, it would be pretty good. But then we have another problem. That's gravity. You know, Mars is a smaller planet, has much less gravity than the Earth. What effect would that have on the people living there permanently? Aside from having to feed them every day and taking, you know, water up there. Maybe you can take water from one of the 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. But food? I don't think they'll be able to grow it up there. I mean, they've been watching maybe this fellow who got stuck on Mars and says, oh, he grew potatoes over there, you know. Okay, I mean, if you want to believe that nonsense, fine. You know, what can I say? I certainly need to buy into it. But here's part of the problem. Let's go with the first problem. The first problem is that veggies are on the rise. Okay, so I don't think anybody who invests in meat is making a good long-term investment if meat is going down. Okay, and here's another version of that, essentially. It shows that we consume more veggies in general around the earth than we do of meat, and that's not because of vegetarians or vegans. We just simply consume more grain. And that's been a fact for a long, long time. The only time we really consume meat, like 100% meat or close to it, was in the days of the Neanderthals. You know, you're talking about the upper Paleolithic. You know, those spears, they weren't used to hunt lettuce. No. Now, they used those spears to hunt something that was moving. It could be another human, which was also true, and it could be an animal that they would eat. And so we were eating, you know, they say the Neanderthals had approximately, by their bone analysis, that they probably had approximately 98% or maybe even more of their diet was meat. So we were meat eaters. And, you know, vegans may not like what I'm saying, vegetarians either, but, you know, that's what it was. We didn't use the spear for hunting lettuce, no, or tomatoes, you know, or pick apples from the tree, no. Now, it was to kill an animal, and we ate that animal raw, not raw, I guess they cooked it, right? But from that time on, after we invented agriculture, it was a more predictable source of food, and so we moved on to, veggies and primarily grains. We eat the grasses. That's what they're called, that whole family. Okay, so we've gone. We've been doing veggies for a long time in general, much more than meat. I'd say at least since the Neolithic, that changed radically. And then, of course, we have the issue of whether, if there is a collapse of the economy and these big corporations go down, who's going to produce food? And, of course, we got these free willies, as I call them, the free will people who believe in free will and these narco-capitalists, narco-caps as I call them, and they say they have this idea in their minds. The world is run by the invisible hand of self-interest. No problem there. That's the Smithsonian logic, right? And this principle applies to corporations and governments, all of which are filled with individuals looking out for their self-interest. And my friend Shamu there, who's going to be in Lusaka, he puts corporations don't exist. They are conceptual abstractions. Individuals do run the world. Hence, the Austrian approach to economics. There's an Austrian school, for those of you who are not aware, Austrian School of Economics, okay? Von Mises and so on. You got to look it up. Axiomatic reasoning from incentives for the individual to act. So these people believe in the individual and the fact that we have free will. And so the question, does free will have any power at all to overcome determinism? I'm a deterministic guy, I'm sorry. There's no way free will overcome determinism. And there are certain deterministic processes. One of them is population. We can't avoid that. It was predictable. It would happen. It's happening. It will continue to happen. We can't do anything about it. And the overturning of the population pyramid. And the other one is this, the fact that what we're having right now is corporations, agricultural corporations, which are taking over the land, okay? And there's a handful really, maybe 100, good, important companies out there that either produce or are the mediators, the intermediaries between the farmer and the populations that need the food. They are agricultural traders, right? And the question is, just like in all industries, look at the car industry, look at the airplane industry, or airline industry, look at almost any industry, and you'll see that we're tending towards monopolies. Oligopolies, whatever you want to call them, okay? I call them cartels. They kind of sit down at the boardrooms and, from different companies, and they decide maybe to collude, to arrange prices. So what's dying is competition. It's dying completely. And one of the things that's occurring, a lot of these corporations are buying competitors, small competitors, which are just startups, which are coming up, and they say, oh, this thing is profitable, we'll just buy them out. And they buy them out before antitrust can intervene. I mean, if the corporation is big, the Congress might act and say, hold it, you guys are big, these guys are big, you're going to buy these guys out. But if you're very small, you're not even on the radar. And so the corporations look for these guys and say, oh, hold it, this guy came up with this new idea, this innovation, as I call it. And so they buy him out before he becomes big. They might even name the president of the company, one of the managers or whatever of the project. But the point is they buy him out before antitrust laws, which I can't even imagine that antitrust laws exist today anymore. I mean, that's history. Competition is dead. And so they'll buy them out, and nobody notices. It's below the radar, and they can continue growing, and they buy these things, and they become these monopolies. That's what we have today. And now let's assume, in this case here, that the food companies, right? We end up with 3, 4, 5 food companies. 10, you want 10? Fine, I'll put 10. 10 food companies. And they finally take over the industry. And that means from production all the way to distribution to the, to the supermarkets. They can even take over the supermarkets, but let's leave that in the hands of someone else, okay? Fine. So what you have is all these corporations, and they take it from the farmer. In other words, they buy out the farmer. Whatever the farmer sells, they buy it. They put it on the ships. They trade it. A little farmer can't do that. And a little farmer cannot send his product overseas. He's got to rely on one of these corporations to serve as an intermediary. Okay? So we have these 5, 10 corporations, whatever you want to come up with. And now they become so big, right, over time, and they control the food market completely, or 90% of it, or 75 or 80%, a big number, okay? And what these free willies are telling me is that when these corporations collapse, assuming they collapse, right, they're going to go in there and say, oh, hold it, potatoes are now $1,000 a pop. I'm going to plant potatoes. You know, I'm going to get into business because I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm going to make a big killing here. Well, you know, I wonder about all that because, see, if a big corporation like that collapses, I mean, if they collapse, the little guy cannot go in there and start planting potatoes, waiting for them to grow 4 months later or whatever. He certainly won't have all the necessary things that he needs to produce potatoes. What is he going to do on his living room carpet? Is that where he's going to grow the potatoes? No, he's got to buy land. Right? He's got to have the tools, the fertilizer, all that stuff, which, by the way, a lot of these corporations already control. So when they go down, you know, it's not like the little entrepreneur can go in there and say, oh, fortunately, we got rid of that big monster that was in the way. Now we're going to do some tiny entrepreneurship. I'm going to build my own potato factory or whatever. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. You know, because what's going to happen here is, you know, a corporation's going to die. And suddenly, lots of people starve. And it's not like you can go in the back of your yard and start producing food to supply that market, assuming you knew what you were doing and assuming you had all the ingredients, everything that you need. You know, and so this notion that people have that entrepreneurship is going to take over, it's just crazy. And I can tell you, give you another example, and that's the industry I work for, in the semiconductor industry. You know, to make a chip, it's a very complex process. It involves hundreds of people, hundreds. You can't produce a chip in your garage. I don't know if you understand that. You can't produce a chip in your garage. You need implanters. You need photomasking machines. You need sputterers. You need implanters. You need diffusion furnaces. You cannot imagine what you need and the amount of money it costs to buy those machines to build a chip, assuming you knew what you were doing. I mean, you cannot even imagine. You can't, if a corporation like Intel or some of these big guys die, there are no more chips on the planet. You can't go into your garage and start building chips and say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. It's not going to work. I mean, you simply have to understand that you cannot be a lonely guy that starts in a garage on these things. And the same goes for agriculture. So this notion that the individual pursuing his own self-interest is going to overcome the collapse of big corporations, I'm sorry. You need to do a lot of research before you say something like that. Okay. Okay. Let me continue. Here are a few corporations you can see that dominate the market of agriculture. Here, just in case, is another one. These are the food processing corporations. Again, very few, and they're gaining market share. In fact, I was going to put it up there, but it was just too lengthy. But I was looking at BASF, B-A-S-F, corporation that also deals with fertilizers and all that kind of stuff, as well as food. And I was looking at their goals, and they plan to conquer market. And the question is, if there's only a certain market, because the market is growing arithmetically right now, essentially the food market, why? Because population is not growing, or growing very slowly. And so by the year 2030, in only 10 years, they plan to double their income, their revenue. And you say, how can they double their revenue at whose expense? It's got to be at the expense of someone else, because it's not like the market's going to double. So if Basel already has these ideas that they're going to double their revenue, it's going to be not because consumers doubled, but because they're stealing market share from someone else. That's why. And that means that fewer and fewer companies are going to end up at the top, just like in the car industry and the airline industry and so on. And so keep that in mind. We're going to have very few corporations dealing with food, and food is the only thing you need to stay alive. You don't need a car, you don't need an airplane, you don't need a boat, you don't need anything else, but you do need food. And that's out of our hands right now. You know, someone else handles your food, feeds you with, in your mouth. Okay, let's move on with another issue. Imagine that someone comes to you and says white. And you say, well, let's say it the other way around. He says black, and you say white. Okay, you don't agree. Black, white, black, white, black, white. You say, no, it's white. And the guy says, no, I'll show you. I'll show you. And he says, look at that. That's black. And what are you saying? That's white. Just imagine that. Well, I had that issue. You know, here I'm talking white, and this guy tells me, no, Bill, you're wrong, it's black. And all the evidence he proposed, that he put forth is white. So you wonder, what's going on in this guy's mind. And here it is. It says the following. He says, Bill claims women don't have choice because we moved from the country to the city. No room for babies. In other words, the choice to have a baby, right? And wrong. Okay, well, I'm wrong. Okay, let's look at some real data. Let's look at some real data. And so he puts out a link. I go to that link, okay, and I look at it, and I'll cover that in a second. But he says, continues, but Africa and parts of Middle East, Asia are growing into the 2100s, 22nd century, okay? Let's look at real data projections. And again, he provides a link. And I go to these links. I'm saying, what is he talking about? I mean, maybe he knows something I don't. And I go to the first one, and it has this. And what I see is what I said. World population is projected to nearly stop growing by the end of the century. Another important comment there, the ones that I underline there, the global fertility rate is expected to be 1.9 births per woman by 2100, down from 2.5 today. And I think that's very optimistic, but that's what the article said. The world median age is expected to increase to 42 in 2100, up from current 31. Global fertility is falling as the world is aging. Well, that's all of what I said. So you wonder what this guy had in his mind. I mean, what was he thinking of when I said that we're aging, we're not having children? And he seems to think that I'm wrong. And he gives me references that show that I'm right. Okay, and then I look at the second article, and I see the same thing. And they show this graph, okay? So it talks about world population growth all the way to 2100. And again, you can see that we have what is known as approaching the asymptote. And I guess this guy doesn't know what an asymptote is, so I put the definition there. An asymptote of a curve is a line such that the distance between the curve and the line approaches zero. Okay, that's called an asymptote. That means we are approaching a flat curve. We're going to reach ZPG. Why? Because women are not having babies, and because we are growing older. And so you wonder what this guy had in the back of his mind, why he's talking about this stuff, where he says, that I'm wrong, that somehow the population is not aging, that women are not having babies. And then, and he has this idea that, women in Africa, because the black people are so ignorant, right? And they have all these children. I think it's a racist point of view. What's happening is women all over the world, in Africa, in South America, in Asia, they're moving to the cities within their countries. So in Nigeria, if someone's in the country, they move to Lagos, to the main city. In Argentina, they move to Buenos Aires. In Mexico, they move to Mexico City. That's why you got all these big monster cities today and no one in the country. Well, who's buying the country out? The big corporation, agricultural corporations, and they mass produce food for the cities. That's what's happening. And so what is this guy talking about? I have no idea. But I like the other one. It says, again, women choose not to have babies because they don't need to. Well, it's not that they choose. They have no choice. That's the point. The point is women don't have a choice when they come to the city. I don't care if they're black, they're green, yellow, or white. Okay? It doesn't matter what color the woman is, how intelligent she is, or how dumb she is. Even the dumb women decide not to have children. They realize they can't have children because, it gets in the way of their careers, for one. The other one is they can't have 10 children in an apartment. There are many reasons, and women, it's not that women choose, it's that they have no choice but not to have babies. And this guy, well, he doesn't understand it. But I like the last one. It says, if you live forever, why do you need to reproduce? This guy is thinking he's got to live forever. I heard that from religion. In the old days, they used to talk about, life after death. You die and then you go to heaven and you continue living for an eternity. This guy is thinking along the same lines. He thinks he's going to live forever. They're going to invent something that allows humans to live forever. Lots of people think like him. And they get all this nonsense from Hollywood, or who knows what they read. They don't do any research, any serious research. They come up with these conclusions that humans are going to live forever. And here I put 3 population curves, which I always comment on, okay? And the issue is, what's going to happen once we reach ZPG, zero population growth, which is around the mid-century, okay, around that time. Are we going to continue increasing exponentially or in any old way? Are we going to remain constant? Is our population more or less go up and down for the next billion years, trillion years, quadrillion years? Or are we going to sink down to extinction? Those are the only 3 possibilities for the population curve of humans. Okay, and here's my answer to that. Okay, and this is what I see. We have the growth rate that's been dropping since 1963. That's the last time we had a 2.3 growth rate. And that's going to drop down to 0 by mid-century. I put 2075, but I think I was being too generous. I don't think it's going to happen that far out. It's going to happen much sooner than that. That curve should be steeper. But regardless, once you reach ZPG, you can see the curve is pointing downwards. It's not pointing upwards or in any way constant. No, we're going to go down to extinction. And part of that reason is that, we're not producing consumers, and that's going to affect a lot of industries. A lot of industries are already merging right now. I can't imagine once there are fewer customers, they're going to have to fight for the crumbs. Car companies, airline industry, whoever, they're all going to have to fight for what's left. And there's not going to be a big market where next year you're going to have more sales because there are not going to be more people. So there's not going to be more demand. And as that crunches inwards, these people have to fight, merge, whatever they do. And to think that an entrepreneur, a little guy out there in the street said, I think I'm going to make a killing. I'm going to get into the airline industry. Or in the car industry, you build your own McLaren or Ferrari in your garage, say, I'm going to build this great company. People are really out of their mind. Competition is dead. There is no more competition. And it can never come back again. It can never come back for the important industries. And until you understand that, you think of free will, but it's a deterministic process. At least that's my take on that. Okay. No way you're going to replace the big car companies. Whenever they go down, that's it for all of us. And whenever the airline industry goes down, that's it for all of us. And the food corporations, that's it for all of us. And so on down the line. The internet companies, same. How many internet companies do you know? Well, I had a list there, but I didn't bring it because too lengthy. But yeah, we have no competition anymore. It's all collusion at the upper levels, and there's oligopolies. That's all we have today for the majority of workers in the world, at least. Okay, and for those providing necessary services, goods and services. Okay. Another comment that was made says Bill claims we are an old species, animal. Even though we have only been around on the earth for 300,000 years. Okay, check out some of the oldest animals on earth which are still around today. They haven't been extinct, Bill. Okay, we simply don't compare. We are so young. And mentions a few old species. Well, again, this individual doesn't do any research and just talks out of the corner of his mouth because he doesn't understand anything. The first problem is that there are no Lazarus species, or known as also living fossils. Okay, and here's a comment. This comes from the Wikipedia, but anyone who does research will find out the same thing everywhere. Okay, anyone who reads the literature. Okay, living fossil is an extant taxon that closely resembles. Not equal, it's not the same, it's closely resembles, usually architecturally, morphologically, organisms otherwise known only from the fossil record. Popular literature may wrongly claim that a living fossil has undergone no significant evolution since fossil times, with practically no molecular evolution or morphological changes. Scientific investigations have repeatedly discredited such claims. I did a study on coelacanths, which is one of the animals this guy mentions. I think you can see it there, coelacanth, number 6. And, again, he doesn't do any research. He doesn't he just swallows whatever they fed him. And he says, oh, look, coelacanths, they found the lungfish. That's a coelacanth, a lungfish. And the lungfish of today, if he saw the lungfish of a few million years ago, he would run the other way like we would run, the other way if we saw a Neanderthal in a dark alley. I mean, we'd run the other way. We'd be scared to death. It's, a coelacanth is not a coelacanth is not a coelacanth. Lungfish today has nothing to do with the animal of the past. Their genetic code is different. They just occupy the same niche. And they built themselves in the same way, and you have this throughout history. No animal lives 300 million years. No species lives 300 million years. Get that off your head. And you don't have to take my word for it. Do some research so you don't say nonsense. Okay? There are no perpetually living plants, and there are no perpetually living animals. Okay? All species eventually die. Their population pyramid overturns. Their genetic diversity vanishes, and that's time for that species to go. Now, this guy has this idea that, how many times has the Earth gone around the sun for us? He says, oh, it's only gone around the sun 300,000 years, and here you have all these other species. They've been living for 300 million years. So we're babies. We've just started living. That's his notion. Okay. So what can I say? I put a note the other day. He missed it. Obviously, he didn't read it. And it goes something like this. This is how Mother Nature judges a species' age. She doesn't count how many times the Earth went around the sun at all. Doesn't matter to her. She looks at this. These are the hints that you have to look at to determine if a species is old. Okay, reproduction, low fertility. Longevity, if they have long lives, we live a long life for a mammal, for a big mammal like us. we live long lives. You know, we're in 100 years now, 100 plus for some people. Sedentary, we don't colonize the earth anymore. We've already colonized it. We don't go anywhere. Disease resistant. We don't die of contagious diseases, endemic diseases. That's gone. We die now of genetic diseases, cancer, diabetes, what I'd have, arthritis, you know. We have other type of diseases, and they're all related to our genetics, not contagious diseases. Very few people proportionally die of genetic diseases. We die of heart disease, stuff like that, you know. What is it? Size, we're big. We're a monkey. You can see the little monkeys at the bottom there. Okay, we're big for apes and for hominids. We're numerous, 8 billion big mammals. So big and so numerous that we've crowded out everybody else, except the ones that we eat, like, you know, cattle and so on. And we don't have any more genetic diversity. We lost our genetic diversity. Person in China has the same genetic diversity, or same genetic code more or less, is a brother or a sister from a genetic point of view as someone in South America or Russia or the United States. There is no difference in our genetic code anymore. We're all clones. And so, you know, we can't restart the race even if someone survived, you know, a near extinction. Okay, we get down to a few pockets on Earth. Whoever survives, they're not going to reproduce, because if they do, it's not going to last long anyways. A couple generations, we're done. So yeah, you know, people can believe whatever they want. There's another comment, and this one was regarding technology. And it says that by 2100, okay, the advances in technology, we will be so amazing that the world we know today will be transformed. People are projecting 19th century or even before to the 21st century. They say, look how much progress we made in the past. Just project it to the future, and man, I can't even imagine what's going to come in the future. So let's address that issue. It says the world we know today will be transformed, and gives me a link. The graph shows how technology is taken up faster as we progress towards the 23rd century. Okay? Just shows a graph of technology going up, right? And there are so many recent inventions that have and will in the future transform our lives. You know, lots of people believe like this guy does. That's why I bring these things up, because, yeah, I've heard this over the last 20 years a lot. And what are they talking about? Well, they're talking about what this guy mentioned here, and his name is Ray Kurzweil. And Kurzweil says the singularity occurs as artificial intelligence surpass human beings as the smartest and most capable life forms on Earth. Technological development is taken over by the machines. So now you have the machines doing the inventing. Okay, who can think, act, and communicate so quickly? It's a question of speed, okay, that normal humans cannot even comprehend what is going on. Oh, we're so stupid. Or these guys are. The machines enter into a runaway reaction of self-improved cycles. You know, they improve. We can't even keep up with them because they're gone. You know, they run faster mentally than we do, okay? Certainly more than Ray Kurzweil does, right? And with each new generation of AIs, artificial intelligence, appearing faster and faster. From this point onwards, technological advancement is explosive, cannot be accurately predicted. Well, let's see if I can counter that. I certainly don't subscribe to that notion at all. And so how am I going to do this? Well, I'm saying there's been no new inventions. I argued that last week. There's nothing new. And one of the reasons there's nothing new is that we don't need anything new. And everything that we do need has already been invented. You're going to say, Bill, you're crazy. Okay, let's find out. Let's test you. Okay, this is a test. This is a test. Okay, here's the bathroom of your house. I hope it looks something like this. Okay, these are the things you find in your bathroom. Okay, now you can look at some of these. The question is there something in here that you don't have, or if you need it that has not been invented, what would you think needs to be invented so that your bathroom works more efficiently and more comfortable for you? Do you have a bathtub? Do you have a shower? Do you have I don't know, a hair dryer? Do you have a toothbrush? Do you have toothpaste? You know, we can go on and on and on. Think of what you might need. Again, this is a test, okay, a very important test. What do you need that in your bathroom to make your life more comfortable? What invention can you even dream of that would make your life in the bathroom, okay? We're talking only about the bathroom here, okay? More efficient, would make your life more comfortable. And I'm talking about things that we have not invented, not things that you don't have because you don't have the money to buy it or you don't want it or whatever. No, I'm asking, what thing needs to be invented that you do not have in your bathroom that you absolutely need or to make your life more comfortable or whatever, or your bathroom run more efficient? So that's the first question. All right, let's go with the second question. Here we go now. We move around the house. We go to the kitchen. Okay, these are things we find in the kitchen. Okay, we have pots and pans. We have kettles. We have I don't know, tablecloth and tables. Washing machine. We have a refrigerator. I can't live without a refrigerator. I need something to get my beer cold. Okay, we have what do you call the cooker or oven or stove. It's got burners. We have kettles. I don't know, microwave. Is there something in the kitchen that has not been invented that you absolutely need, because otherwise, you know, you won't even be able to run your kitchen? And I can give you an example also. I think you go into Bill Gates' house, or you go to the Queen, you know, Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth's house, her little tiny house, and you go to the kitchen or you go to the bathroom, and I'm wondering if you're going to find something so radically different that you don't find in your bathroom or your kitchen. I mean, does she have toilet paper? Or does she have some magical stuff that's out of this world? Is there anything that she, with all her money, you know, would like to have that she cannot buy? I mean, you would think that if there's something that she could imagine that she needs in her bathroom, she's got the money. Obviously, she would put someone and say, hey, I need for you to make something that does this for me that I don't have right now. And I'm sure that if you go to any bathroom on planet Earth, other than very poor people, obviously, but, you know, take anyone in Europe or Japan or the United States, and you're going to find more or less the same things. Because you don't need anything else. You've got everything you need that the pharaohs wanted or that Julius Caesar wanted. We've got it all in the bathroom. If you go to the kitchen, the same thing. We've got everything we needed. We needed a stove. We needed something to, you know, make meat last longer, so you put it in a freezer or whatever. We got all these things today. What do you need in the kitchen that you don't have, that you think needs to be invented? And I'm sure you can't come up with anything. We've got everything we need in the kitchen. We have everything we need in the bathroom. Let's continue. Let's find out what surprising things we might find in 2,000 years if we came back, right? Took a trip on the time machine with Mr. Einstein. Here's the living room, okay? What do we have there? Well, you might have a couch, you have a clock, floor lamp, you have a carpet, right? You have an armchair, you can have also a love seat maybe, you know, somewhere, maybe a painting, you have bookshelf, curtains. Is there something that you're missing? I mean, look around, just go to your living room and see if you can come up. That's a test, right? See if you can come up with something that you don't have in your living room that you can invent, that you can make an industry, put billions of people to work. Or do you have everything you need inside the living room, and that's why we don't have any new industries to manufacture anything for the living room, the kitchen, or the bathroom, because we've covered every base. We've got everything that Alexander the Great would have loved to have to make his life more comfortable, because he obviously didn't have paper tissue, for example, bathroom tissue. He didn't have a toilet, like we have today with a little button or whatever. So we've got all these things. We have everything we always wanted, and that's why all houses have the same type of toilet, more or less. Flushable toilet. We have running water. They didn't have these things in the old days. Water was handled a little differently. Today we open that faucet and water just comes out. Where did it come from? Well, from God. I don't know, from heaven. We don't even know. We don't care. It's like, it's there. And so what do you need that you don't have? That's the question. See, because if you can come up with something, you can become a millionaire. And the point here is that you cannot even imagine anything that has not been invented. And you might say, well, of course, Bill, because, we cannot imagine what has not been invented. Well, you'd be wrong. That's a wrong answer. It's an irrational answer. See, when Jules Verne came up with Voyage to the Moon, he was dreaming about something that they didn't have in the 19th century. And it turned out, it materialized 100 years later. We went to the moon. So yeah, it took a long time to make it, but it was within the possibilities of physics. It was something we could create within physics. And the question is, what can you come up with that within physics, within the possibilities of physics, what can you imagine? Forget about making it. What can you imagine that you don't have that would make your life more comfortable? And you might come up with one or two things, I don't know, something, a video game that you don't have, some stupid thing like that has no importance whatsoever, and say, well, I want this, I really want this. Yeah, we're talking about things that people need in general that would spread across the planet, that would put billions of people to work, and you won't find it. You cannot even imagine it. We've got everything we need on planet Earth to make life more comfortable. Some people don't have it because they don't have access to it, they don't have money or whatever. But those who have money, they already have it, and they have the same thing as most people out there. Bill Gates doesn't have a shining bathroom like mine. Nothing that he has that I can't get myself at the corner store. Okay? So the issue is, we can also go with a garage here and you'll see the same thing, what do you have in your garage that you need? Well, what is it that you need in your garage that has not been invented? You need tools, you got them. You got a drill, you'll get a paintbrush, paint. We got it all. There is nothing for you to invent. We've covered every base, okay? There is nothing you can come up with. And if you can't come up, you cannot even imagine something that would really make your life much more comfortable or whatever, in the bathroom, in your living room, in your dining room, in your kitchen, in your garage. Then you can understand why we're not inventing these things, because none of these things, we've invented it all. We've got it all. There is no more invention to make your life more comfortable. And so now we have to go way out far. Now you have to think about, going through the fourth dimension of time, or, being able to have the time machine to take you back. You got to talk about stuff that has nothing to do with physics. It has to do with Hollywood only. That's the problem. The problem is now you got to get very sophisticated, and you really don't need it, because you don't need to go back in time. And you don't need to go forward in time or through the fourth dimension. You can stay here on Earth and live a comfortable life as you are. And you've got everything you need in the kitchen, in the dining room, in the bathroom. You've got everything you need. And so that's why we don't have any new inventions today, first. And that's why you can't come up with anything new. And that's why in 100 years there won't be anything new. We've got it already. We're there. This is the future. And this is where the future ends.